Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to our annual meeting. Unfortunately, we're on Zoom. We are going to miss the incredible meal that we usually get from Yukon. But I'm happy that we can all at least be together this way. It's been a tough year, as we look back over the pandemic, of course, and just to get legislative things done and communicate with people. It's been a challenge, but I'd like to thank all those who helped us this year in our task. Let's look at planning for the future of farmland and as our goal here, and proceed ahead. This is a time to reflect on how things went last year and try and gear up for the year ahead. It's like an end and a start. If we could, we'll get started. Can we do the governor's announcement now, please?
Hi, this is Governor Ned Lamont, and I want to give a big shout out to the Working Lands Alliance. I've known of the amazing work you do for many years. Connecticut's one of the densest states in the country. We have to work extra hard to preserve open space, forest land, in particular our farms. And the Working Lands Alliance is making an enormous difference. We look forward to working with you. We got $10 million of some of our federal funding to go support our dairy farms. And working together, we're going to preserve even more of our open space. Thanks for everything you do on behalf of the state of Connecticut.
Okay.
Thanks. Jim, before you introduce our one of our special guests, if I could read land acknowledgement statement.
Please.
Sure. So we would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the territory of the Mohegan, Mashantucket, Pequot, Eastern Pequot, Schaghticoke, Golden Hill Pagusset, Nipmuc, and Lenape peoples who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We thank them for their strength and resilience in protecting this land and aspire to uphold our responsibilities according to their example. And also just a reminder that this is Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month and National Native American Heritage Month. So thank you.
Thank you, Kip. Okay, it is now my pleasure to introduce the Commissioner of the Department of Agriculture, Brian Hurlburt. Prior to his appointment by the Lamont administration to serve at the Connecticut Department of Agriculture, Brian was Executive Director of Farm Bureau Association. Brian Hurlburt also worked as the Senior Vice President of Program Operations at Wholesome Wave, a nonprofit organization headquartered in Bridgeport, Connecticut, that is dedicated to empowering underserved consumers to make healthier food choices by making fresh food more available. In 2013, he was appointed by President Barack Obama to serve as the Connecticut State Executive Director for United States Department of Agriculture Services agency, in position where he was responsible for overseeing the agency's crop protection, disaster relief program, and loan programs. From 2007 to 2013, he was elected to 4 terms in office as state representative for the 53rd District of Ashford, Tolland, and Willington. Commissioner Brian Hurlburt.
Good morning, everybody. Just a quick sound check. Can I get a thumbs up if you can hear me out there?
Thumbs up.
All right, thank you. I learned, and some of you may have heard this before, but some places do a $10 fee if you're on mute when you try to speak. And I think it's an excellent way to fund the department, but I don't want it all coming out of my pocket. So Jim, thank you for the kind introduction. Chelsea, Kip, Jim, Armando, and the steering committee, thank you so much for all the work that you do. Your advocacy, your leadership and partnership has been instrumental, especially as we try to navigate through all of our meetings on Zoom, dealing with the legislature, trying to work with them, educate the public as to why working lands in the state of Connecticut are important. I'm happy to report out that the past year has been pretty successful for the agency among all the other challenges that we've had. We've been busy, and I'm very proud of what our team has accomplished. To date, in 2021, we have preserved 735 acres of farmland on 8 farms by spending $6.1 million. Cam and his team have another 4 in the hopper that we're expecting to close, which will give us 12 by the end of the year. One of the most important points that I like to highlight on our farmland preservation efforts is that we don't do this by ourselves, that we are great stewards of the limited dollars that the agency has. 71% of that $6.1 million came from outside partners, whether it be the federal government, local municipality, or nonprofit organization. And so only 29%, under a third, were actually our farmland preservation dollars. So a tremendous job by Cam and his team, our partners across the state for all of their efforts and contributions to make sure that we are moving forward with protecting and preserving farmland for future generations. At the risk of not calling out everybody, I do want to highlight a couple of those special partners. NRCS, Connecticut Farmland Trust, Land for Good, Trust for Public Land, the Northwest Connecticut Land Conservancy, and all the municipalities and partners that are out there. It's a tremendous effort. I was recently at Simsbury.
No, thank you, Black.
Okay, 427 coming down.
I would love a coffee. Who's getting coffee? Well, all right. I was recently at the Meadowood closing out in Simsbury, and the first selectman read off a long list of participants who helped gain the community support for that project. And it was really a great demonstration to everybody in the audience and the media that was there about how difficult it is for us to preserve every parcel of land, but also how important it is that we preserve every parcel of land that we can. And that was just a great event. I'm sure we'll hear more about it in the near future. In addition, Cam and his team have been stewards of the Farmland Restoration Program, and we awarded nearly $350,000 to 23 farms for a total investment of $750,000 in 164 acres across the state to bring land back into production. So it's great that we're preserving land. It's great that we're investing in land to make sure that it continues and remains to be productive. But it's also important that we recognize that we need to be using this land as an attraction for new and beginning farmers, and that they see themselves as future farmers in the state. We recognized over the course of probably the past 18 months that our programs weren't always a great fit or a great match for the needs of our new and beginning farmers. And so we revamped and launched the New and Beginning Farmer Microgrant Program through our Transition Grant program to specifically address some of those challenges, recognizing that their needs are a little bit different, their risk is a little bit less, but the investment is that much more important to those farmers than it is for some of our other farmers. It's a $5,000 award. Doesn't require nearly as much backup support or business history, but that doesn't mean that it's any less significant. And I'm excited to announce that we made 6 awards for $30,000 in investments to those small farms. And it's not just when we talk about these things, it's easy to talk about in the aggregate or the cumulative, thousands of acres, millions of dollars. But I want to share the story that explains to me how important this work is and what it actually means to the awardees. While I was at the Big E holding down the Harvest New England tent one day, An individual farmer came up to me and he was asking a bunch of questions and really engaged in the conversation. And it came about that he didn't know who I was, and I didn't say I was the commissioner, but somebody, said, "Hey, Commissioner, what about this?" And he goes, "Wait a second, you're the commissioner?" He goes, "I have to thank you for that New and Beginning Farmer Award." He's like, "You don't understand what it means to me in my operation." He's like, "I was struggling. I was trying to figure it out. I want to be a farmer. I know I can do this, but I could not get to that next level." He's like, "That investment leapfrogged me 5 years in my business plan." He's like, "I feel so much better about my decision to be a farmer than I ever did before." And that's transformational. That $5,000 investment in that individual is transformational, not only in their career, but in their ability to be successful. And I know that we've got 5 other stories like that out there. And I know that as we continue to use this program, we will have many, many other stories and build that next generation of new and beginning farmers and demonstrate that they can be successful as a farm in Connecticut. But it's not just about the land and those investments. It's also about making sure that we are diversifying who is farming in the state of Connecticut too. And earlier this year, back in March, the governor announced the department's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Work Group. And we have broken the working group down into 5 focus areas to identify some of the needs, priorities, and challenges that BIPOC community members may see and feel and when they enter agriculture. So the 5 focus areas are access to education and training, access to capital and financial planning, access to resources, infrastructure, and business planning, access to secure land tenure, and market access and diversification. And I'm really excited that we took a very different approach to this, to seeding this group. Instead of just calling on the known parties across the state, people who have participated in public hearings or public press events, we opened up a nomination form and did a call out to across the state for people to nominate themselves or their friends to participate. Dozens of individuals volunteered their time, energy, experiences to this effort and made themselves available. And I highlight this point because we're not just saying that we want to diversify the discussion. We actually did it by pulling on people and talented individuals from across the state who have never participated in a forum like this before. And that means that the recommendations that we get out, the conversations that we have will be that much richer because we're pulling on the real experiences from people that really are dedicated to pursuing this and sharing their challenges and their successes as well. These groups have met 9 times altogether at this point. Importantly, all on teams, all with public access and publicly posted meetings to ensure that we continue to make it available and accessible to anybody who has an opportunity to contribute or participate. I want to thank everybody who's in today's audience for what they have already contributed, that they continue to contribute, and that I know that their efforts will be successful. And I know we're running short on time, so I'm going to run quickly through this because you guys always have such a full agenda. I feel like when you serve lunch, everybody's willing to stick around for many, many hours, but without a great meal, our time gets a little bit short. So I just want to highlight the recent announcement with the governor about our food and farm investments to support Connecticut agriculture on land and sea to make sure that the COVID impact was able to be weathered through the challenges. We invested $6.9 million in farm operations due to the market loss that the COVID pandemic caused. That was $3.6 million to dairy and $3.25 to aquaculture to shore up their operations. The dairy dollars have already been distributed. They're out in the field. I'm sure they're being used wisely by our Connecticut men and women dairy farmers. In aquaculture, we're working through the process on the calculation with the industry there. Not only do we make direct investments in the farms, but we also use the money to make investments in the farm through other programs. $2.45 million was dedicated to supporting food share and their drive-through distributions from June through October. ensuring that people in need for food across the state had access to it. But also we worked with Jason and his team to make sure that those dollars were being spent on Connecticut farms purchasing Connecticut products. And I give him and his team a lot of credit for their willingness to work with us, to have those initial phone calls with farmers, to understand that relationship and to build those bridges. It was tremendously successful that we were able to connect so many farms with Food Share. I was recently at Food Share and they were really proud of their ability to support Connecticut farmers through this program and the relationships that this initial project created that they will be able to draw from for future years. We also know that new and beginning farmers, their first point of market access is at Connecticut farmers markets. And so we purposely invested dollars into consumers to spend at those markets. We added $200,000 to our farmers market nutrition program, and we covered the entire the entire program year for SNAP doubling. That means that each one of those dollars that we invested, over $1 million total in farmers market nutrition program and $200,000 in SNAP doubling, those are dollars that go directly to diversified farm operations in the state at the market. So that's a huge investment right into the produce sector. And not only are we supporting our farmers by doing this, it's important that we recognize that we're also supporting Connecticut families that have limited purchasing power and want to spend it on Connecticut grown food. And so it's important that we're investing not only in our nonprofit sector and our ag sector, but we're also investing in families. That's what I have to share with everybody today. Again, thank you all for the work that you do. I look forward to continuing to work with WLA as an organization, but all of the steering committee members as well. I could talk about a lot more, but I know we've got a great friend and partner coming up next with Commissioner Dykes. And so, Kip, Jim, thank you for the opportunity to share with everybody today, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Kip?
Sure, yes, thank you, Commissioner. Very, very impressive what you've been able to accomplish, and congratulations to that hardworking staff as well. So it's my pleasure to introduce another special guest, and that's Commissioner Dykes. Commissioner Katie Dykes is the Commissioner of Connecticut's Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Katie previously served as Chair of the Connecticut Public Utilities Regulatory Authority and as Deputy Commissioner for Energy at Connecticut Deep. She also served as the Chair of the Board of Directors of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. Katie joined Connecticut Deep in March of 2012 after prior service as Deputy General Counsel for the White House Council on Environmental Quality and as legal advisor for the General Counsel for the U.S. Department of Energy. She's a graduate of Yale College and Yale Law School. Welcome, Commissioner Dykes, and thank you for joining us today. And again, thank you to your dedicated, hardworking staff for all you do to protect Connecticut's ecosystems, citizens, communities, and working lands. So if you could share some words, that would be awesome.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Kip. I really appreciate that warm welcome. It's great to be on this Zoom today virtually as part of this event. I see so many friends and great supporters of Working Lands who are participating in today's discussion, and it's great to be with everyone. I also know we have so many legislators who've joined today, and obviously everything that we've been doing to help advance support for farms and working lands and our broader environmental and climate goals that we've done in partnership with so many legislative supporters. And so it's great to be here this morning. I just wanted to say, you know, echoing my great friend, Commissioner Hurlburt's words, we are so thrilled at DEEP to be able to play a role in supporting working lands and farms across the state. We know, you know, from DEEP's perspective about all the great values and services that farms are providing, even beyond helping to put food on the table for Connecticut citizens and providing pasture for livestock. We know that our farms are providing lots of other uncompensated services like providing habitat for many wildlife species, both large species like white-tailed deer and wild turkey, and small like bobolinks and kestrels and native pollinators. Our farms are also providing critical corridors that allow wildlife to move between different habitats, and that is so essential to help species remain resilient. We know because of the challenges of climate change that many of our valued wildlife species across the state are going to need to have access to more and different types of habitats as our climate is changing, and farms and working lands are essential to help support that. DEEP has a long history of working in close partnership with those who are protecting our working lands. And one of the first major initiatives launched under our first Wildlife Action Plan was aimed at developing partnerships to support and protect grasslands in a compatible and sustainable way. So we have a long history of working together in that area. Connecticut's working lands also add tremendously to everyday residents' quality of life. Working forests are healthy forests, and Connecticut has no shortage of forest health concerns. And this is something that we've been very focused on. I'm proud of the work that DEEP's forestry department has been able to provide in terms of support for private landowners. I wish that, this is an area that we can never be doing enough, and resources can sometimes be limited. But with so many of our forest lands in private hands, it's really essential for us. We work very hard to try to provide support for private forest landowners to help support responsible long-term management of our forests, because we know how valuable they are in so many different ways. And we know that those forests are also experiencing a lot of stresses as a result of climate change, whether it's from invasive pests like the emerald ash borer, the gypsy moth, or drought and erratic weather that we've been experiencing. There are a lot of challenges that our forests are experiencing, but diversified forests are also more resilient in the face of these climate change impacts. And so we're eager to continue our partnership with owners of working lands to help protect our forests and sequester more carbon and provide great economic value for the state going forward. But I just want to say this has been a really challenging year, challenging summer, challenging season for a lot of our farmers out there. I know that it's hard to believe after last year when we were experiencing significant drought impacts that were affecting water access and quantity for our working lands. Then we have had a summer of really unprecedented rainfall, and unprecedented just in this, I don't have to tell you, but in the sense of the number of inches of rain that we were seeing fall in just short periods of time. Unfortunately, these are the impacts of climate change that scientists have been warning us about for a long time. And it just underscores the urgency for us as policymakers at the state level to provide more tools for farmers and for working lands to help think about how we can make farms more resilient to these types of unexpected weather impacts that are going to become more frequent and more intense as we go forward. And I'm just, I'm always very interested to hear from folks directly about what more we could be doing in this space. Many of you participated in the Governor's Council on Climate Change process, even during the pandemic and with busy lives and demanding workloads in your day jobs. We've had so many people participating in the Working Lands Committee or working group for the Governor's Council on Climate Change. Your contributions helped us develop dozens and dozens. Actually, I don't think that there is a working group that developed more recommendations for things that we can be doing to address climate change than the soils subgroup of the Governor's Council on Climate Change. And I read every single one, and I know Commissioner Hurlburt and others on the call or on the meeting today have been doing a ton to help think about how to take all of that input and those recommendations and turn them into action. So this is just a teaser. Look for some announcements that are going to be coming in the next couple of weeks as we're looking at more executive actions that we can take to support farmers and working lands to protect against the impacts from climate change. And we have a lot of, we have a long history of farms leading the way in terms of helping to support clean energy options. We know that for many farms, being involved in green energy development, including the rapidly expanding sector of solar energy, can be a great contributor to reducing emissions if it's done right. And we have learned a lot of lessons. There's more we can do to help to minimize the impacts and the conflicts that solar development can propose for working lands. And so if folks, I would just want you to be aware that we have launched a process called the Steps for Solar Siting process here at DEEP to make sure that we've got the best new recommendations coming forward so that we can minimize conflicts and negative impacts to farms and working lands from solar development going forward. And I really appreciate all of our partners in the Working Lands Alliance who've been working with us and on this in many different ways. Also, staying in the energy space, anaerobic digestion is something that we've been spending a lot of time working on, and we're just really excited about the uptick in interest in developing on-farm anaerobic digestion in the state. DEEP has spearheaded efforts to assist farmers and developers by creating on-farm anaerobic digestion permitting fact sheet, which is available on our website. I'll put the link in the chat. And it provides developers and their consultants hopefully a more clear understanding of what's involved in terms of getting permits from DEEP in a timely and predictable way for developing on-farm anaerobic digestion. And I just also want to credit many of the legislators who are joining us today. Many of them have really been great champions in spearheading legislation this year that exempts on-farm anaerobic digesters from solid waste permitting if the farm is primarily using a digester to manage its own organic material. We know that we're facing a waste disposal crisis just broadly within the state. We want to find solutions that can work for farms to be a part of solving that challenge. And I'm thrilled we have one on-farm anaerobic digester that's operational in the state and more that are on the way. So DEEP is committed to working with farmers and developers on making these projects and their environmental co-benefits a reality. So I can go on and on and on about all the different ways that we are either working together or want to partner more, but you have terrific speakers ahead, and I'm thrilled to be a part of this discussion today. And I encourage folks, if there's more that we can be doing at DEEP to support you, please don't hesitate to reach out. It's katie.dykes@ct.gov. And thanks for everything that you're doing, and we look forward to even more partnership going forward.
Great. Thank you very much, Commissioner Dykes, and for all you do and for your great staff and their commitment as well. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Jim.
Yep, thanks, Kip, and thanks, Commissioner Dykes. So we're going to go on to our accomplishments and policy priorities. And I've had the privilege over the last 4 years and the honor today to introduce Chelsea Gazzillo. Chelsea has worked with Working Lands Alliance for 4 years. And I don't believe I have met anybody with more passionate and about protecting farmland and advocating for all of agriculture. She works tirelessly for us and has a unique skill in leading many different opinions into a common ground. I'm sure you'll agree after you hear her report. Chelsea?
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. It's always such an honor to follow Commissioner Hurlburt and Commissioner Dykes. Thank you both for being here today. And thank you to all the legislators for joining us. And most importantly, we are so appreciative to all of you for being at our meeting this morning. As Jim mentioned, my name is Chelsea Gazzillo, and I'm the Working Lands Alliance Director and American Farmland Trust New England Policy Manager. We are thrilled to be here virtually again with you all this year to celebrate our 2021 accomplishments and envision the future of farmland policy in Connecticut with everyone on this call. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge our partners who sponsored Zoom tables this morning. A special thanks goes to the following organizations and individuals, including Connecticut Land Conservation Council, Connecticut Farm Bureau Association, Connecticut Farmland Trust, Jones Family Farms, Kip Polzinskas and Leslie Sherman, Northwest Connecticut Land Conservancy, and the University of Connecticut Extension. Next slide. For those of you who are not familiar with our coalition, WLA is a broad Connecticut-based coalition dedicated to protecting our working lands from development and promoting a prosperous agricultural sector for all of Connecticut's residents. We have been fiercely cooperating since 1999. Our coalition includes farmers, farm businesses, land trusts, local food advocates, municipal food and agricultural system planners, state leaders in conservation, members of Yukon Extension, beginning farmers, seasoned farmers, and others who care deeply about Connecticut's working lands. If you want to become more involved in the work of our steering committee, I recommend signing up for our mailing list, which you can do on our website. And I believe my colleague Emran just put the link in the chat. You can also follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Working Lands Alliance. Next slide. We are also a community. Over the past 4 years of being Working Lands Alliance Director, I've enjoyed many laughs, glasses of wine, farming and agriculture jokes, good moments, sad moments, and established many lifelong friendships with a community of individuals who not only care deeply about saving farmland and advancing the agricultural sector, but are also just amazing people committed to making a difference in the world. And because we are such a tight-knit community, we work together in poetic collaboration, that's the updated version of fierce cooperation, to advance agriculture each year. I will now share our 2021 accomplishments, the challenges we faced in 2021, and our legislative priorities for the next session and beyond. The materials I mentioned are cited during this presentation will be shared with you in an email later this afternoon or sometime tomorrow. To begin, I want to take a minute to highlight our 2021 successes. As Katie Dykes as Commissioner Dykes just elaborated or mentioned, in the fall of 2019, Governor Ned Lamont signed Executive Order Number 3 and established the Governor's Council on Climate Change. Our steering committee members worked diligently to help draft both the Forests and Ag and Soil Subcommittee final reports, which outlined provisions the state could implement that utilize our working lands as part of Connecticut's efforts to combat climate change. This past December, we worked in collaboration with many of our partners who are part of these efforts to submit public comments to help inform the GC3 Phase 1 report. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Connecticut General Assembly pivoted and conducted the 2021 legislative session over the Zoom platform, and you all did a great job in doing so. Prior to the session, we worked with members of the Connecticut General Assembly, including Representative Maria Horn, Senator Kathy Austin, Representative Joe Gresco, and many others to introduce legislation that will decrease the number of farmland acres we are losing to various development pressures. As a result, we were able to testify on many pieces of legislation that would decrease the number of farmland acres lost annually in the state and would continue to promote agriculture across Connecticut. A few of our legislative wins for this session included ensuring that the Community Investment Act remained intact. We also participated in the Connecticut Farm to School Collaborative and ultimately testified and supported the creation of the Connecticut Grown for Connecticut Kids grant program, administered by the Connecticut Department of Agriculture. This program will be funded at $250,000 annually over the next 2 years and will be financed by American Rescue Act Plan or ARPA funding. We saw a small win for the Community Farms Preservation Program this session. HB 6577 threatened to add the State Properties Review Board as an additional step to the already thorough Community Farms Preservation Program application process, making it difficult for farmers to access land tenure. However, many of our steering committee members and partners testified in opposition of SPRB being added to the Community Farms Preservation Program process, and were able to stop this section of the bill from moving it out of the Judiciary Committee. In alignment with the Governor's Council on Climate Change Phase 1 report, Working Lands Alliance and other members of the GC3 Ag and Soils Working Group advocated for a statute change to the Connecticut Soil and Water Conservation Districts to include soil health. And finally, we supported HB 6441, an act concerning climate change adaptation. This bill was a small win for agricultural producers as it sets up an environmental infrastructure fund within Connecticut's Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, or RGGI. Next slide. We also welcomed 2 new WLA steering committee members. This includes John Guskowski and former WLA director Clark Chapin, who joined WLA early this spring and then stepped down when he was appointed to become the next state auditor. Congratulations, Clark. And this is not on the slide. However, we were honored to be appointed to serve on the Connecticut Department of Agriculture's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Access to Secure Land Tenure Subcommittee. On the federal level, through our strong relationship with Senator Murphy's office, Jim Smith at Cushman Farm welcomed the senator, staff from American Farmland Trust, beginning farmers, and other members and friends of Working Lands Alliance to learn more about how farmers are implementing practices that promote agricultural viability and combat climate change. After the meeting, we followed up with the senator and sent a letter that aided the senator's office in configuring what to prioritize in Congress's appropriations bill. And finally, we worked diligently with the Connecticut Department of Agriculture to release Farmland Needed, how Connecticut can help farmers access the land they need to succeed. Next slide. And with all our successes this year, we also experienced some changes as a steering committee. In February 2021, our beloved Gordon Gibson, who is on the call today, who has served on WLA since our inception in 1999, was nominated to move to emeritus status. We are honored that Gordon was an active member of WLA for over 20 years, and we are grateful he still wants to stay engaged in our work despite the need to cut back on the number of commitments Gordon is involved in during his retirement. Gordon is a stark advocate for farmland protection, and we look forward to his continued input in this work as he enters the next chapter. Next slide. As a result, the 2021 legislative session was held virtually. The virtual nature of the session made government more accessible to people who, in the past, did not have time to drive to Hartford to testify. The virtual platform for the session also provided some challenges, including making it hard for one-on-one conversations with legislators in the hallway about certain provisions or policies that were moving through the legislature. However, I think we were all able to gracefully navigate it. This year was also hard for many producers in Connecticut. As a result of the drastic weather conditions we experienced this spring and summer, it made it hard for producers to plan. The effects of climate change impacted many farming operations this year. Unfortunately, this year is not the exception, and unless we act quickly to configure new solutions to help farmers adapt to these extreme variations, farmers will continue to struggle in planning for subsequent seasons where erratic weather conditions are expected to become the new normal. Next slide. As we look towards the next legislative session and envision how we can create a food system that supports local producers and promotes climate change resilience, we see WLA's 2022 legislative priorities as a framework that centers our working lands and the ecosystem services they provide as a tool the state can prioritize in our efforts to become carbon neutral. Our first priority is to ensure that we maintain and support funding levels for farmland protection in Connecticut. This includes ensuring full funding levels for the Community Investment Act and continuing farmland preservation and community farms funding. We recognize that the Connecticut Department of Agriculture's farmland preservation program must be strengthened, and we hope to work with DOAG and the legislature to configure how we can implement provisions that will increase the pace of farmland protection in Connecticut. As we mentioned, we must configure statewide policy provisions that aid farmers in becoming resilient to the impeding impacts of climate change. Connecticut continues to have some of the most expensive farmland in the country. According to the 2021 National Agricultural Statistics Service Land Value Survey, the average price of farmland per acre in Connecticut is $12,800. Furthermore, young and beginning farmers continuously note the high cost of farmland and limited availability of high quality farmland in the state as hindering their ability to continue farming. Finally, according to the 2017 National Agricultural Statistics Service Census of Agriculture, There are 156 farms that are fully owned by Black farmers, Indigenous farmers, Hispanic, Latinx, and other farmers of color in Connecticut. This is in comparison to the 4,234 farms that are fully owned by farmers who identify as white. Urban agriculture will continue to remain a priority for WLA this upcoming year. Ensuring that our urban producers have access to land to produce food and have outlets to vend at is of the importance to the future of agriculture. And lastly, the rapid expansion of renewable energy installation across Connecticut has started to compromise Connecticut's best farmland and core forests, part of our green infrastructure that is critical to addressing climate change. Next slide. As you heard, we have some ambitious policy priorities for the next legislative session, and we've identified how these policy priorities can turn into legislative action this upcoming session and beyond. We would like to see some of the following legislative actions introduced and passed in 2020. Prioritizing establishing new pathways to increase the number of agricultural appraisers and surveyors and increase Connecticut Departments of Agriculture's staff capacity. Updating the Farmland Restoration Grant Program statute to support farmers in transitioning to climate-smart agricultural practices. Implementing the option to purchase at ag value in Connecticut. Allocating American Rescue Act plan funds to increase agricultural conservation efforts in the state. Amending the Connecticut Siting Council General Statute 16/5J to include a representative with background and knowledge of agriculture. Next slide. The future of agriculture in Connecticut is dependent on bold action that will prioritize strengthening our local food economy and ensuring our working lands remain at the heart of Connecticut's food system. We cannot do this work without everyone on this call. I would like to take a moment to thank each of you for being here today and graciously supporting our work. And now we will transition into the next segment of our program where we will present our 2021 Pathfinder Awards. I'm going to turn it over to Nathan Latoile, the American Farmland Trust New England Director, who will introduce our Pathfinder Awards and some of our presenters.
Thanks, Chelsea. Can I get a thumbs up on whether folks can hear me or not? Perfect. Each year, the Working Lands Alliance celebrates individuals and groups who have exemplified leadership in farmland protection over the past year. It's a great honor to share a little bit about that Pathfinder Award program. The program was created in 2003 and has become known as the Grammy for farmland protection in the state of Connecticut. The award includes 3 categories: Outstanding Individual Award. This award is for outstanding achievement by an individual in advancing farmland preservation. Outstanding Group Award, a similar award that goes to a group, a public, private, or nonprofit group that's advancing farmland preservation in the state. And an award for education and communication, which is for individuals who have made significant contributions in the area of educating the public about the importance of farmland preservation. I encourage you to visit the WLA website and to look at the list of previous award winners. I believe Emmeren's going to drop it in the chat, or Chelsea will drop it in the chat now. To honor our awardees this year, we decided to give our award winners something different, something that's more Connecticut, and something that they could cherish for years to come. Our friends at UConn made 2 of our award winners Connecticut-grown cutting boards. And I would love, Bonnie Burr, if you wouldn't mind just sharing a couple words about the cutting board.
Great, thanks a lot, Nate. We're really, really pleased to show that UConn isn't just a place where students come and get into some really great research, but they also take them out into the field. And Tom Wordley, who many of you know is our extension educator that works with a lot of our private forest landowners, he works with students to create wood products. He's very, very big on locally grown, and that includes forest products as well. So he and his students go out and they find different trees that are down in the Yukon forest, and they create really neat products. And we've got an example here today is one of the cutting boards that he and the students do. And we're just delighted that we can help provide a locally made item for our winners today.
It's now my honor to introduce WLA Steering Committee member and Land for Good field agent, who's also a farmer, Will O'Mara, to introduce the 2021 Pathfinder Award for Outstanding Communicator. Will?
Hi, folks, and thank you, Nate. As Nate mentioned, my name is Will O'Meara, and it's a great honor to introduce writer Jocelyn Ruggiero as the 2021 Pathfinder Award winner for Outstanding Communicator. Jocelyn is a writer from Madison, Connecticut, and has an impressive resume of farm, food, and cooking-related articles. She has been published in a wide variety of national and regional publications, from Food and Wine and Yankee Magazine to the Boston Globe and Washington Post. Her focus this year on the region's farms and farming for the Boston Globe is especially timely and noteworthy. Jocelyn's storytelling, authenticity, and caring allowed her to write a number of compelling stories for the Boston Globe that have helped inform and educate readers in New England and beyond about the challenges of farming, the importance of agriculture to the region and our communities, and especially what the experiences are like for Black, Indigenous, and people of color farmers in our area. Her wonderfully written and informative articles have highlighted topics important to farmland preservation, keeping farms economically viable, the challenges of farming in both rural and urban communities, affordable land access, supporting local food systems, and the cultural importance of food and sustainable production. Next slide, please. Here are a few of the highlights of Jocelyn's work this year. In October 2020, a Boston Globe article on the last Green Valley, which focused on a number of protected Connecticut farms and highlighted the value of these farm businesses, bring to the state and region. In March through September 2021, a Boston Globe series, States of Farming, which provided 5 stories highlighting the experiences of a range of different BIPOC farmers in New England. They include recent immigrants, African Americans, and Native Americans. Important topics such as affordable farmland, urban agriculture, accessing grants and assistance, feeding communities, and building connections to other farmers are explored through the families and individuals highlighted in these pieces. Connecticut's own Robert Chang of Echo Farm in Woodstock was featured in one of the stories. As Jocelyn notes on her website, she writes stories about people and how food, farms, and growers create community, connections, and shared history. As we all know, this too is critical to our efforts to preserve farms and keep agriculture viable. Congratulations, Jocelyn. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you, Will. I am so touched and honored because I value the work that the Working Lands Alliance does so much, and I respect and value this community so much. So there's really no other community whose opinion means more to me. So I am grateful for the trust you've placed in me in sharing your experiences with me, and your trust in allowing me to then share your stories. I'm very lucky to have a platform like this. I'm privileged and lucky to have a platform like the Boston Globe, in which I can share these stories, and even more lucky that I have an editor, a wonderful editor there named Chris Morris, who also values these stories and gives me a lot of space to tell these stories. So I'm lucky and privileged all around. These things are really important to me. Your stories are important to me, and I want to continue to try to understand your experiences, because I know there's not just one experience. I want to continue to understand the breadth of your experiences. So I plan to continue telling these stories. I hope you will continue to place your trust in me and reach out to me, be open when I reach out to you. And I am so excited about that cutting board. This is the best gift. It's better than a gold-plated medal. I'm excited about this. Thank you, Bonnie. So thank you so much. I'm very touched and honored and grateful for all of your generosity and support, your entire community. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jocelyn. And again, congratulations. It is now my great honor to introduce the Connecticut Farmland Trust Executive Director and Working Lands Alliance Steering Committee member, Elizabeth Moore, who will introduce our 2021 Pathfinder Award winner for Outstanding Group.
Thank you, Will. I was afraid I was going to get, what was it? Get a $10 penalty, as the commissioner mentioned, if you didn't have your, if you were still muted. So I am very, very pleased to present the 2021 Pathfinder Group Award to the town of Easton for the preservation of Lakeview Orchards, an historic 37-acre farm in town. And that project was completed in June of this year. So I'm especially honored to present this award because Connecticut Farmland Trust had the honor of working closely with the town of Easton on the protection of this important farm over the past 10 years. And we also nominated the town for this prestigious award. So I'm very grateful that Chelsea gave me the opportunity to actually present the award. And we're privileged to have Jean Polchowski, Chair of the Easton Agricultural Commission, joining us. And the protection of Lakeview Orchards was possible, not just because of the Agricultural Commission, but also because of the hard work of the Conservation Commission, Board of Finance, and Board of Selectmen, who worked very closely on this project. The town worked also with the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service, Connecticut Department of Agriculture, and as I mentioned, the Connecticut Farmland Trust. And Jean, I don't want to disappoint you. You're not getting a cutting board because we couldn't figure out how you guys would share custody of the cutting board. So we are going to give you another special award that can be displayed in a public place so everybody can benefit, but most importantly, know the incredible work and the honor it is for you to receive this prestigious award. And one of the reasons that you received this award is because we feel, the nominating committee, as well as the actual selection committee, this we felt was an example, an excellent example of fierce cooperation, which, by the way, I just learned today is now called poetic cooperation. I don't really know how I missed that, but and also I want to mention another key partner in this project was the Barney family, who was extremely committed to seeing their family farm protected. And if it hadn't been for their commitment to seeing the property protected, this project wouldn't have happened. And if anybody knows that, it would be Jean, because Jean has worked very closely with the Barney family. And in the upper left-hand corner, the apple, that's equipment that is used to harvest the apples, excuse me. And what's really interesting about it is the contraption, the piece of equipment that you see behind the tractor is actually an apple picking machine that was patented by the Barney family's father. And that was back in the 1940s. So that is pretty cool. And some may be surprised, and frankly, when I came to Connecticut, I was, when I started doing farmland preservation work, that there are actually 22 active farms in Easton. And I also recently learned that Easton was named the Christmas tree capital of Connecticut. Now, I don't know if that was just for this year or if that is a permanent award, or if maybe Shelton or other towns might try and take that away from them.
No, it's all us in Easton.
Oh, it is. Well, I hope you're able
We
to
claim it. We claim it.
I hope you're able to keep it. That would be very exciting. And as many people know, traveling up and down I-95, that Fairfield County has lost a lot of farmland. In fact, over the past century, they've lost over 75% of their farmland. And it's really not shocking because of just straight economics. Fairfield County has the highest land values in Connecticut, and it makes it very difficult for new farmers to acquire land. And it also entices farm owners to sell their working land for development. And the Agricultural Commission has dedicated itself to helping connect farmers in Connecticut with the resources they know, so they know there are possibilities other than development. So speaking for all the partners who worked with the town on the conservation of Lakeview Orchards, we're hoping very much that this is the first of many more farms we can all work with the town to conserve. So please join me in congratulating the town of Easton for receiving this very well-deserved 2021 Pathfinder Group Award. So Jean, as the representative of the town, would you like to say a few words on behalf of the town?
Elizabeth, it's really my honor and privilege to be here to accept the award on the behalf of the town of Easton. What strikes me about this project is partnership and collaboration. And it was just great honor to work with you. And I want to give a shout out to Kathleen Doherty, who I know is here as well, who's just been a remarkable partner as we work together with in collaboration with the Connecticut Department of Agriculture, the USDA, Natural Resources Conservation Services, and the Connecticut Farmland Trust, as well as the entire town of Easton. And we're so grateful to our legislators. And Ann, I see you just dancing over there, right? This opportunity to build trust with our farmers so they make the important decision to preserve land is really what this has been all about, and a real byproduct of this effort over the last 10 years. A couple of you know this is a new effort for Easton. We're 10 years young with our Easton Agricultural Commission and have made great strides in bringing agriculture as a new chapter to the town of Easton rather than something that was a part of the past. So we're working to expand production on farms and well, poetically engaging this collaboration, really working on succession with farms. It's an important story, and really this effort is one of many. I think the greatest reward was to hear from other farmers as they heard the story of the Barney preservation saying, hey, I have 100 acres over here, let's talk. So we have hundreds of acres in 490 in Easton, and a real culture of supporting and preserving farmland and open space. So with the support of all on the call, we say thank you. We're honored, very honored and privileged to have this award, and we'll continue our good work. Thank you.
Very well said. And as I said before, we hope very, very much that this is just the first of many more to come.
Thank you, Jean, and thank you, Elizabeth. What a motivating recipient. Thank you. Our next award was designed to honor someone who's truly inspired many of us on the Working Lands Alliance Steering Committee to embody that fierce cooperation, that poetic cooperation, and to do whatever it takes to advance conservation and agriculture in Connecticut. The Terry Jones Fierce Cooperation Award was first awarded to its namesake in 2019 at our last in-person annual meeting. This award was created for individuals who have dedicated a significant amount of time and energy to supporting Connecticut farmers and those whose hearts are committed to the betterment of the environment and the agricultural sector. So to present the Terry Jones Fierce Cooperation Award to our second recipient, I'm honored to introduce the namesake, steering committee member, past WLA chair and farmer at Jones Family Farm, Terry.
Thank you very much, Nate. I just have to say to Jocelyn, the written word is a powerful tool, and thank you for all that you do. And I would also say Al Barney was a good friend, and I was so thrilled that at last his place was protected in Easton. I will also say to the town of Easton, on the matter of being the Christmas tree capital of Connecticut, Sherwood Edwards, the founder of Maple Row, and my father were very, very close friends, having started their enterprises in the late 30s and 40s. And I think they would be horrified to think that one or the other town would be elevated, because they were featured on the front cover of Connecticut Hearst about a decade ago as friendly competitors, and all their lives worked together, and out of their passion and love for evergreens and all that. So I just have to add that in the spirit of fierce cooperation, and I am excited of the new name, Poetic Cooperation. That's a wonderful, wonderful term. So we are honoring Joe Bonelli, who has epitomized working collaboratively with farmers. And he has been a faithful member of the Working Lands Steering Committee for many, many years. And in a moment, you'll hear more from Bonnie Burr, who he has worked with these many years on Yukon Cooperative Extension. But Joe was a friend and advisor to our family farm here in Shelton before Yukon. And after that, he's been working extensively with agricultural groups and agencies to deliver farm business management, helping new and beginning farmers, and doing programming statewide. His personal connections with industry leaders have helped him to be a go-to member of the ag community. And I think I just had an example of the importance of this working together. I was sitting here on a chair with 4 legs, and one of them gave out and dumped me on the floor, if you wonder why I went off screen for a while. And Joe brings groups together, so we're standing together on all legs and being a stable factor in growing Connecticut agriculture. Bonnie, additional thoughts?
You know, Terry, I can't say enough good about Joe Bonelli. Joe is one of those people that we have here on faculty at UConn that he never works to a clock. He always works to what the needs are. And I can't tell you how many times he and I will run into each other in the parking lot after work. And, you know, he's going to be going on to another meeting with one of your organizations or farmers that you work with. He just goes where people need help. He goes where people need assistance in learning how to do farm business management, farm business planning. It's his passion, it's his work. And I think I would probably be safe in saying that he would feel, and he'll probably come into me as soon as he's done, to let me know how uncomfortable he is with all of the accolades that we're going to share about Joe. But he truly probably has never worked a day in his life, because he absolutely loves agriculture and what it means to the state of Connecticut. And I think that just really exemplifies the kind of work that he does, again, with each of your organizations and with all of the farms that we have. So with that, Joe, you can come get your cutting board next time I see you in the hallway. It's right here on my desk. So, and Jocelyn, I'll look forward to finding a way to connect with you so that I can hand yours off as well. So again, to our winners, Terry, I just have a really fast kind of connection to Easton as well. We had a dairy farm in Brookfield, as you know, and the first registered cow we ever purchased was Maple Row Patty, and my grandfather purchased her from the Edwards family. So our dairy herd, the genetics has a very firm start from the town of Easton. So it's a small circle, it's a great circle, and again, I think that our winners just truly exemplify how hard they work, how much they work on behalf of agriculture. And it's just a real pleasure to see our winners get recognized today.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. The agricultural world is so incredibly small, and that's a great segue to what I wanted to share very briefly about Joe. I've known Joe for longer than anybody else on the steering committee. Not that I've known him longer than any of you. I've known him longer than I've known anybody else on the steering committee. 4 or 5 years ago, I was at a SARE meeting, and across the room, I saw Joe Bonelli, and I heard Joe Bonelli's name when we were doing introductions. And I just started racking my brain. Where have I met Joe before? I know that name. I know that face. I just can't remember, though. Later on during that meeting, Joe sat down next to me, and we proceeded to reminisce about Back in 1987, when my parents bought the farm that we're on now, and Joe was our tax advisor from Farm Credit. To hear the stories that Joe told from his perspective when I was just 8 or 9 years old of the family's progress at that time, to hear the pride in which he talked about his service with farmers, to hear the just the smile in his voice, the passion for his support of farmers and agriculture really came through incredibly well. And so, yeah, it's a really small world. And I would say that Joe, we go back a long way, and I'm really proud to be a part of your introduction here. Would you like to share a few words with us? Joe, you might be on mute. There we go.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Well, I don't know what to say. All your kind words. It's certainly a great honor to receive this award. I've been blessed over the many years to work with so many wonderful people, across the state and also across the region as well too. Nathan, I recall that conversation we had as well too. I also remember working with Terry many years ago as well too on a few projects. As I'm ending my career fairly soon, and again I'd like to say that thank you so much. It's an honor to have worked with so many wonderful people. I've been blessed to have worked with so many wonderful people as well too. And these have all, in my opinion, have been collaborative efforts as well too. It takes a team to achieve results. The Working Lands Alliance is a team to achieve great results, but also mentioned too, the leadership is very important as well too. And I've been blessed. Can you hear me? And like I say, I've been blessed to have worked with so many great leaders and organizations as well too. So in closing, I want to say thank you. It's an honor. Usually, all of you know me. I'm not usually at a loss of words, but I am at a loss of words. So thank you. And it's an honor and a privilege to have worked with so many great people. And I've been blessed to have that opportunity as well too. So thank you to everyone. And I really appreciate it. And again, but I really feel as though any achievements have been a result of the collaborative efforts with so many wonderful people over the years that I've been able to have an opportunity to work with. And thank you so much.
Yep, I think we're back to you.
Yes, well, thank you very much, Joe. It's well deserved, and congratulations to all of the award winners. You're all very inspiring, and thank you for your contributions and your dedication. So now we're getting ready for our panel discussion, and those of you that may have been with us for the 2020 annual meeting where we had a theme that was envision the future of farmland, we've taken this to the next level now. So the next step is really planning for the future of farmland. So again, it seems like we never really take the time or have the time or put the effort into really doing the planning to get the desired results that we're looking for. So that's that we're changing that pattern here. So we have an outstanding panel of dedicated farmers and Connecticut legislators to provide their thoughts and guidance on moving forward with an emphasis on farmland preservation and land access. And here to introduce our panel is WLA Steering Committee member Joan Nichols, who is also the Executive Director of the Connecticut Farm Bureau Association. Joan?
Thank you so much, Kip. And congratulations to all of the awardees. We have a phenomenal group of individuals working on behalf of agriculture in Connecticut, and it's really remarkable. So congratulations again. So for the next 20 to 30 minutes or so, it's my pleasure to moderate this panel. We brought this group of legislators and farmers together to help us come up with short-term concrete policies and actions the legislature can take to advance farmland protection and access and promote a prosperous agricultural sector this coming legislative session. We realize at WLA that so much of what we work on is interconnected, and we have a very short period of time this morning, so we cannot address all of the topics that WLA and our partners work on, although we've heard so much of those topics this morning, both from our respective commissioners and our legislative priorities. So I'm really inspired and optimistic about this panel because it speaks to the breadth and diversity of agriculture in Connecticut, from our rural communities all the way into our urban communities. I'm also thrilled to know the legislators that have joined us on this panel. I'm keenly aware of the support that they've given agriculture over the years. And again, I know we talk a lot about fierce collaboration, but we can't do the good work that needs to be done on behalf of agriculture if we don't have a good working relationship with our legislators and the farming community. So with that, I would like to thank our farmers and legislators for joining us this morning for this panel discussion. The flow of this panel will be as follows. I'm going to introduce our two farmers, Ben Freund and Richard Myers. Good morning, both of you, and give them a couple of minutes to talk about their farming operations and then the challenges that they've experienced farming in Connecticut. I will then, after those introductions, introduce our panel of legislators, and then there are 3 questions I will pose to the panel, and then we have about 20 minutes to discuss those questions. And then at the end, hopefully we'll have about 10 minutes or so to open it up to the rest of the steering committee for discussion. So with that, I'd like to introduce our good friend, Richard Myers. He is from Bridgeport and is one of the farmers behind Park City Harvest, which was established in 2017. Richard and his farming partner, Sean, graduated from Connecticut's Horticultural Science degree program. Richard was born on an island where everyone is dependent on nature. He fell in love with plants at a young age. Richard, I could appreciate that. I like plants. He was able to understand the importance of having one's own crops, whether to feed your family or to share or donate to your community. Seeking an education that would match his love for plants led him towards horticulture, which is the art and science of plants, and he hasn't turned back since. Richard also serves on the Connecticut Department of Agriculture's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Access to Secure Land Tenure Subcommittee. Our other farmer is Ben Freund. Also good to see you this morning, Ben, and thanks for joining us. Ben is one of the primary producers at the Freund's farm from East Canaan, Connecticut. He farms with his brother Matt and niece Amanda and nephew Isaac. The Freunds milk 300 cows in a fully robotic farm, which is very remarkable. They cut 300 acres of grass and grow 250 acres of corn to feed the milking herd. Ben has served on the Farmland Preservation Advisory Council since its inception. Ben also serves as the Connecticut Farm Bureau Dairy Committee Chair. He also serves on the Yukon Extension Dean Chauby's Advisory Committee. So with that, Richard, I'd like to turn it over to you to share a couple of minutes about your farm, your background in farming, and then what your challenges have been here in Connecticut. Thank you, Richard.
Background in farming. My grandma was a farmer. She grew up with a farmer. I came to this country with her as well. She was known as the mango lady in Jamaica, where I'm from. So she would be the one that's propagating multiple mangoes onto one tree. And I also seen her come up here and take a whole bunch of stuff for a cheap rate and bring it back to Jamaica and sell it for a higher rate. So it turned into a businessman that just so happened to farm. I just followed her footsteps and took it to another level. Then when I came here, I'm actually, this is random, probably a little off. I'm epileptic. So it was hard for me to find a job and stick with it. So I had to start my own job. And I knew I loved plants, sticking to my grandmother. Got into horticulture, started my own business. Also to support my business, because it's not fully up and running yet by itself, as in like, we still need capital. So I also have 2 full-time jobs at other farms. one being at Green Village Initiative, and the other one is at Brad City Harvest. But to go on with the operation, I'll say I'll just start it a little backwards and then end at where I'm at now. We started on my mother's backyard because we had no space with a 5x15 area. Then we grew to like, we would sell in front of the house. The next year we expanded to one raised bed, because I don't know if you know about in our urban areas, we really don't have that much green space, quote unquote, green space due to zoning. It's a lot of it is just for just housing or for commercial buildings and such like that. So with that being said, we found another community garden on the opposite side of town, while at the same time my business partner found a raised bed in Waterbury. So I would go from my house to the opposite side of town to Waterbury, back to Bridgeport for us to make a sale. So the following year, we gained another bed that was not too far from where we sold at. And we went, did a full round until a lady found me due to social media. She found us and she seen the struggle that we were going through on a regular basis. And we now have 1.3 acres in the Trumbull Bridgeport border area. And at the moment, our only problems, I would say, are capital for power tools, fencing, wash stations, transportations, and stuff of that nature. That's why we're both working full time to go into that. The problem that I see for us as urban farmers out here in this like areas, I would say, I know we're going to get into a little bit more because I want to talk about it a little bit more, would be like when I was first starting off, of course, the space, but then we can't do nothing with space because we're in an urban area. The capital, you'll gain that over time, but tools were the main thing I would say we will need assistance with in these urban areas. If we could create something, in my mind, is like a tool library, not really like a rental space, but like a library where they can actually see what's available at certain areas to go and use that and bring it back by a certain time, you know, and insure tools if possible. But yeah, I guess if anybody has any questions about my going operation right now at the operations where we're selling on a weekly basis. We grow everything to sell at vendors markets. And I have my products in a few stores now. Like with our products now, I grow a bunch of rosemary and sage. So I have a bunch of rosemary, sage, olive oil in a couple markets. I grow a bunch of cabbage and carrots and stuff. So I have something called spicy pickled cabbage in stores now, which is like a pickles, something that we use in Jamaica. And that's that's where we're looking forward to right now. Just growing things that we need for our products to get into the stores while still helping the youth out in our area to learn how to grow, because they're teaching our future generation how to grow.
Okay. Thank you so much, Richard. That's a real inspiration, and thank you for sharing. Ben, if you could just take a minute to speak about your farm experience, and then I'll introduce the legislators so we can launch into our panel discussion.
Thanks, Joan. And kind of interesting to follow Richard. I can't think of anything less conventional followed by something so conventional as what we are. So the path that we took on our farm, kind of born and raised on a dairy farm, and started out with 200 acres, and then through the farm preservation program in 1985, we doubled the size of the farm when the farm next door came up for purchase, and the farmer wanted to see it preserved, and so he got into the farmland preservation program, and we bought the ag rights. And then following that, in 2009, we expanded the farm by another 55 acres when the farmer across the street came up in an unfriendly sale, if you will, and actually used the Connecticut Farmland Trust, and Elizabeth helped us in kind of getting through a rough spot financially at that point to just kind of get us over the hump and get that farm eventually a year later purchased it with the ag rights. We're holding the ag rights and the development rights sold to the state of Connecticut. So our farm consists now of about 650 working acres with a 200-acre managed woodlot. And we have, I have to say to Commissioner Dykes that there are 2 active digesters in the state of Connecticut. We've had one running since 1996 continuously. Not a modern digester by any means, but it does process most of our manure and harvest that methane and keeps it out of the ozone layer. We support over a dozen families on 3 operations. We have the traditional dairy and where we milk 300 cows. And also there's a market that my sister-in-law developed since the early 90s. And that has become very important in today's world, where people are very interested in having active, good, solid local businesses that can provide food in kind of a less conventional way than Stop and Shop does. And finally, we have the cowpot operation, which we began in earnest in the middle 2000s as a way to deal with some of the regulations that come down the pike there, and where our operations, our dairy operation could expand, but you have to also deal with the expansion of the nutrient load that it puts on the land. And so we handled that by developing an industry that takes about 10% of the manure, or the complete solid portion of the manure, and exports it off the farm. So going forward, I think we have to be careful not to break the wheel that got us here. I think the theme here has been partnership, and I think that comes together on our farms in ways that sometimes we fail to recognize. When you look at our partners, from the Department of Agriculture to UConn to NRCS, the Connecticut Farm Energy Program, DEEP itself is a very important partner on our farm in terms not only of regulation, but also in terms of seeing potential out there and grant opportunities that they can bring to bear that are very important in keeping us compliant and solid into the future. But the most important thing going forward, and probably the most potentially the biggest thing, is the transition of these farms into the next generation. Richard kind of spoke of kind of on the ground and beginning in a very different aspect, but also the traditional farms. The transition is not just given. It's a very it's a struggle really to have these units maintain their relevance into the future. So thank you, Joan, for the opportunity to present our farm.
Thank you so much, Ben and Richard. With that, I'd like to introduce our three legislators who have graciously joined us this morning, and then I'll pose three questions to the panel. We're joined by Senator Austin. Senator Austin represents residents of the 19th Senatorial District, which includes Columbia, Franklin, Hebron, Lebanon, Ledyard, Lisbon, Marlborough, Montville, Norwich, and Sprague. She is Deputy President Pro Tem and serves as the Chair of the Appropriations Committee, Vice Chair of the Public Safety and Security Committee, and member of General Law, Legislative Management, Regulation Review, Transportation, and Veterans Affairs. Nice seeing you this morning, Senator. We're also joined by Representative Gresko. Representative Gresko represents the 121st House District, which consists of Stratford. Representative Gresko is one of the co-chairs of the Environment Committee and serves on the Energy and Technology Committee. And then we are also graciously joined by Senator Formica, who represents the residents of the 20th Senatorial District, which includes Basra, East Lyme, a portion of Montville, New London, Old Lyme, a portion of Old Saybrook, Salem, and Waterford. He is the Senate Republican Leader Pro Tem and serves as ranking member of the Energy and Technology Committee and Executive and Legislative Nominations Committee. He co-chairs the Bipartisan Tourism Caucus and the Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Caucus, and he is a member of the Finance, Revenue, and Bonding Committee. So thank you to our farmers and legislators for joining us this morning. So I'd like to pose the first question to all of you. As we look towards the next legislative session, are there specific policies that would help strengthen farmland protection? Could potentially utilize American Rescue Act plans for additional funding to help fund some of our and strengthen our farming operations? Or are there other investments in on-farm infrastructure that would help farmers with processing or other on-farm needs? And I'll open that up to the panel.
So good afternoon or good morning. I don't know if we've yet reached afternoon. I'm Kathy, and I'm also the chair of the Rural Caucus, which is meeting today at noon to talk about both dairy and egg production in the state of Connecticut. I think that in the next legislative session, much of that will be done to make sure that for farmland preservation and supporting our dairy farmers primarily. I also think that that we really need to pay attention to not overreacting to some of the issues that are national issues. And I think that that's important because we also have to remember that we have to have a generational support of farming. That is not something that we really have paid attention to. We can say to a farmer, you can't do this on your property, but if that farmer needs real dollars to support their family, that's what they're going to do. And I would hate to see people dispose of their farmland in order to support their family if we've not figured out how we're going to fix that generational support for people.
Thank you, Senator. Do we have anybody else that would like to contribute to that question?
Joe, do you want to go, or I'm happy to go?
After you, Senator.
Good morning, Joe. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Joan and Chelsea and everybody. And thank you to the WLA for all that you do in terms of supporting farmland and open space and you know, farmers. You know, I listened to Electric Boat the other day. They talked about growing ships and shipbuilders. And I think the same philosophy would, you know, it needs to apply to all of you. We need to grow farms, open space, and farmers here in the state of Connecticut. I agree with Senator Austin. She's been a strong leader on the Appropriations Committee to direct funding from the ARPA funds to the places where we need it to go. And I think that there'll be ample opportunity to have those discussions in the next session when we start in February. You know, coming to these events for me, you know, as I sit on a panel and express my opinion, I'm really here more to listen and understand deeply what the boots on the ground are experiencing, and what is the best way for us to serve that as legislators. And Richard and Ben, I think, were very eloquent in what they're doing each and every day. And I look forward to hearing from them and others to try to find ways to promote legislation that will help move that forward. You know, as a longtime restaurant owner, I'm in my 38th year at my restaurant. My daughter is a chef, graduate chef, very interested in farm to table. And, you know, we know the phenomenon from farm to table has grown. And I think, you know, part of what we can do to expand and secure funding is to be better communicators from the farms to the users. Perhaps we can look to move some of that funding in a way that opens up a social media component, email components that will reach out to the restaurant association, to the beds and breakfasts and the hotels, so that everybody understands what is available from a product. You know, we do wine dinners at our place. We could certainly do farm dinners in our place, which opens up, I think, a whole new realm. And I know there's a lot of people that do farm to table at their farms, you know, which is good, but I'm sure cumbersome when you set up a dining room in a restaurant, you know, in a field, and it might be a way to grow the partnership. So I support, you know, the conversation, and I thank you for including me today, Joe.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Gresco.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for allowing me to listen to the awards and some of the WLA goals for 2020. I would agree that we have some good momentum to build on. I believe the 2021 legislative session was a good one for the ag industry, the Department of Agriculture. At least I hope Commissioner Hurlburt feels the same way that I do. But going forward, I think we can focus in on maintaining what we have, i.e. the funding for certain programs and keeping the funding in the accounts. part of that good 2021 year was the cooperation that we received the Appropriations Committee in earmarking funding for for example, the expansion of vouchers for the farmers markets. Thank you. And so going forward, I think that that's something that we can build on as well. I would say stressing the as far as the urban component goes, stress urban community gardens, open space grant funding that is oftentimes left on the table during each of the OSWA cycles. I forwarded some of that information to Richard at Park City Harvest, since the deadline for the submissions has been extended to later on in this month. Hopefully we can get some funding for Richard going forward. And then here in Bridgeport, we're also focusing in on the use of microgreen containers in an urban atmosphere. So I'm anxious to hear what the other proposals are going forward. But as I've said with Senator Austin before, it's nice to have individuals in both chambers and also with Senator Formica on both sides of the aisle, pushing agriculture. So it's not specifically for Eastern Connecticut. You have fans and you have supporters here along the shoreline and in Western Connecticut as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I'd like to pose the next question to all of our panelists. As we look towards the 2022 election and the 2023 legislative session, what bold investments are needed to strengthen our local food and farming system? Is it additional funding for DOAG to increase the pace of farmland protection? Is it reauthorizing funding for the Farmland Restoration Program, which is nearing the end of its funding stream? Is it investing in climate smart agricultural practices? Richard, to your point, creating more of an investment, an opportunity for our urban agricultural communities and investing in the infrastructure and land access that you need to be successful in the state, additional opportunities for BIPOC populations, and in general, access for all farmers across the state. So I know that's a very broad question, but I'll ask any of you to contribute to that answer. Thank you.
So I might as well start. Want to go in the same kind of order. I think there's a lot that we could do. We certainly should reauthorize dollars for the Farmland Preservation Act, but we also need to start thinking outside the box. And while Ben has an active working anaerobic digester, it's the state's policies that have sort of stymied that growth relative to how we would handle manure management and some of the offshoots of manure management relative to phosphorus that is negatively impacting municipal sewer treatment plants and other, and just the environment in general. But I also think that we could do meat processing in Connecticut, which has not really been correctly funded relative to helping out farmers. I think that that's extremely important. And we also have a number of properties in our urban areas that are just sitting fallow. And if they're just sitting fallow, why we cannot turn that land over into an ability for people to either put greenhouses on that property or farming on that property doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think that that's something that's extremely important if we truly are interested in expanding into our urban areas relative to providing another job initiative and just general good policy in our urban areas. And I want to thank both Richard and Ben for coming on and talking about their two diverse farming initiatives. Although Ben's been doing it for so many years now, as well as his whole family. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Famika?
Yes, thanks, Joan. Agree with Kathy on her funding portion of the restoration dollars. You know, that as much money as there's around now, you know, because of what's happened over the pandemic and the response by the federal government, you know, there's still money that's going to be difficult to get once this budget cycle moves forward. So the long-term opportunities, you know, I think really have to be vetted out and thought through carefully. You know, climate smart agricultural practices, you know, are they going to be available to be supported by some of these funds we're seeing now coming from the infrastructure? You know, I don't know. I think we should look into that. As representative, you know, I have New London in my district. We have to find new ways for, you know, urban farming and, you know, getting different kids and people involved. And I think, you know, education components in the school, we're trying to get, you know, farm food to the schools, but we need to really take it a step farther and teach kids to work with their hands. You know, years ago when I was in high school, there was a lot of, you know, a lot of workshops that, you know, there was mechanic shop and carpentry shop and all of that, and all of that has gone away. And I think we need to get back to that and include a farming component as well. You know, cities, you know, have challenges in terms of, you know, where can you grow space, and rooftops aren't always available and aren't always practical. You know, at the fish market one year, I noticed that we put out a lot of nice pots of flowers in our entry areas, like all businesses like to do. And I found myself with, you know, a dozen or so older ones that didn't look so good. They started piling up in my basement. So I had a nice sunny area out the back kitchen door. I started planting herbs in those. So now I have annual and perennial herbs that grow freely behind the fish market that we use to support our operation. And I'm thinking out loud whether, you know, a collection of give me your old pot, you know, to people that may want to try urban farming, and perhaps that's a way to take advantage of the lack of space there. And then Kathy talked about, somebody talked about anaerobic digestants. I think one of the farmers did. You know, as the ranking member, former chair of the Energy Committee, we've worked hard to support anaerobic digesters, and we think it's a good, viable opportunity to move forward. But the permitting process needs to be helped and really streamlined and done a better job. And we have to find a way to improve the transportation opportunities of the food waste from places like my restaurant, X number of miles to where the anaerobic digesters are, to fully support them. And I think you can do it with, you know, manure and all of that on the farms, but I think to really grow it, there's going to have to be a concerted effort in moving that product around the state, because it could be expensive, number one, and difficult to manage, number two. So I think an education component on that. I think, you know, the Energy and Technology Committee can work with the Environment Committee to try to come up with some kind of joint legislation that addresses both the energy opportunities and the, you know, the management opportunities for those types of resources.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Gresco?
Thank you. I do additionally support the restoration of the farmland preservation program, along with all of the other programs that have been proven to work and help us to achieve our goals of not only farmland preservation, but open space preservation as well. If we can, you know, just keep our state properties review board hands off of some of these transactions, a lot of the a lot of the transactions would go smoother, but we've been working on that over the past couple of years and seem to have reached a point where it's working or is going to continue to improve. As far as the digesters go, we did pass some good legislation out of the Environment Committee last year, streamlining and expanding the digesters. It's a good next step. We'll see how it functions over the next year, and then I have no problem coming back to readdress what is working and tweak what maybe can be improved. And lastly, with Senator Formica, I've been looking at Formica. I've been looking at the deep meetings with the stakeholders concerning farmland. We had a bill last session that was going to try to address that delicate balance. And I was told by DEEP that they were going to be having stakeholder meetings during the off session. I've been keeping track of that. And if hopefully they will come back with a compromise. If not, then I told them that we would probably address it legislatively this coming session in 2022, having given them a year to try to come up with a solution on their own. So those are some of the things I'm going to be looking forward to. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to open it up, start with Ben and Richard. Last question is, what do you all think are the greatest opportunities for Connecticut agricultural sector moving forward? And Ben, I'd like to start with you and then turn it over to Richard.
Well, I think it's apropos to what's going on today. The climate meeting's just ending over in Scotland, but agriculture, especially animal agriculture, is sometimes targeted as being part of the problem with what's going on with climate change. But in actuality, if you look at it, we're the greatest opportunity to be part of the solution. And that is what we're doing with our open lands, with our forests that we manage, and the spaces that we have in Connecticut. There's just wonderful opportunities, and you saw it in the WLA list of priorities there, through soil health initiatives, through alternative energy projects, through methane digesters, and all the things that have been mentioned here. That's our greatest opportunity going forward, because we can actually become stronger and become part of climate mitigation, if you will, with just fortifying the institutions that we have, and each of the legislators have spoken to that. But with the strong Department of Ag, and with with all the other resources that we have on this call, many of them, we can get there, and we can be part of this going forward. And one last leg of that, which is incredibly important, is kind of to bridge Richard and I together, is that we have to take, and this has to be a big tent policy. There's so much opportunity going on where we can't concentrate it into a very kind of a very single looking aspect. It's got to be a diverse looking aspect, and that has to include urban agriculture. It has to include all the people in Connecticut, not just the traditional people that you think of for farming in Connecticut. And there we're going to gain incredible strength going forward, and have opportunities that we don't even see today for agriculture to continue to provide those necessary nutrients for our state citizens.
Thank you, Ben. Richard, if you could briefly speak on, I know it's a very broad question, but what investments would help you in your business and in your growth in urban agriculture, and then where do you see the greatest opportunities? If you could unmute yourself, Richard. Thank you.
Oh, so I guess before I get started now, I would like to answer Catherine first. I can only speak upon Bridgeport, why we don't have that much these buildings turning into like green spaces, because I've tried this so many times. Is that there's zoning problems in Bridgeport, as in like you have to be considered a green zone in order for you to grow. And there's not much of that at all in Bridgeport. So even if you want to grow on top of it, it's a whole zoning thing that you have to go through in order for you to grow those items there. Like for now, I know, right, for exact example, I know a company in Bridgeport that's completely ran through a school garden. So they harvest all their stuff, they bring it to their 3rd floor apartment, bring it out when it's time for a sale. And if they had a green space out here, it would be amazing for them to grow, but it's just not that opportunity. But the best, I would say the opportunities, I got a little drifted off, but I was saying in my head, I would love to see paid opportunities for youth programs. I have a bunch of youth programs that I have right now, and I'm just basically paying for it out of my own pocket. I would like for them to get like create a certificate program for them so they can continuously teach other youth, continuously keep that going on. I like that. How it's going is a great feeling. I have one youth right now that's going to other places teaching other youth just how to grow stuff. A mentorship program with infomercials and ads about the mentorship program for young farmers that's interested and doesn't really know if they want to lean into it. More grant match opportunities for new farmers, especially ones that have LLCs. I've been like, I found a whole bunch of grants out there, but when it came down to it, they won't help out LLCs in general. And yeah, I think that's the only thing that comes to my mind right now. I probably got a little, hopefully I answered the question.
You did a remarkable job, Richard, and a lot of really good ideas and a lot of good opportunity. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing. We're running a little short on time, so I would like to maybe spend 5 minutes and open it up to the floor for questions from other WLA steering committee members, either for any of our panelists. Shane? Oh. I see Shane has his hand raised.
There, I figured it out. How are you? Can you hear me? Ooh.
Yep, we do.
Oh, okay. I am Shane. I'm a farmer as well, in northwestern Connecticut. And just listening to all this, there's a lot of good ideas thrown out there, and I'm absolutely amazed with Richard there. And I read about the urban farming and all that. And a thought that came to mind and some of the stuff I've read is, container gardening and all that stuff. But here where I live, there's tax breaks to landowners for farming, whether they lease their land out to one of us to farm it or actively farm it themselves. And couldn't some kind of legislation or something go into place in the urban areas? First off, the zoning is going to be a pain in the butt, but in those urban areas where there is some kind of tax incentives for places of business that have, I can't tell you how many restaurants I've gone to that have these beautiful flower gardens and they're gorgeous to look at, but to be able to utilize some space around parks or places of business for fellows like this man that could actively, raise some beautiful crops that are gorgeous to look at, plus, food for whoever or something, kind of like here in I'm in Bethlehem, and landowners get what is it, $4.90 or whatever taxed on their land if it's in agriculture. So that was a thought. And I'd really love to see some more stuff put in place. I follow a lot of big farms out west, and it seems like the regenerative agriculture movement is sweeping right across this country. And there's not a whole lot talked about here in Connecticut that I've heard of. There's not a whole lot of incentive to practice these things. But if you just look up regenerative agriculture, to all of you that may not know it, you could really read on it. And there's a lot out there on YouTube and this and that about it. But it's a struggle. I'm trying to do it here on our farm, and it's there's a lot to it. Diversification and all that stuff. Also, I heard someone talk about processing meat. Just driving through Waterbury, which is not far from me, I see so many abandoned buildings. There's a handful of companies that can produce and process meat, USDA inspected. and they're always booked up. It's like a year out if you have an animal that you want processed so you can sell it in your store. And could there be more put into programs like that to establish or build on some of these businesses, not build them so big that they're governmentally controlled, but privately owned, I think is better, because then the decisions can be made more swifter. And, you know, part of the regenerative agriculture movement that I'm seeing is diversifying and putting livestock back on your cropping land, which I would love to do. But I'm looking at some of the headaches that I've heard from other producers that do raise meat on getting stuff processed in a timely fashion, trying to plan, and also just the consumers, everything, all of our businesses.
Shane, I didn't mean to cut you short, but we are running short of time. But great idea, Shane, and thanks for sharing. Are there any other legislators in the meeting today that would like to pose an idea or question to our panelists as we get near the end of today's program? For anybody else on the call, is there any other last minute thoughts or comments or questions from legislators or participants in the meeting or WLA steering committee meeting members before I turn it over to Kip and Jim for a wrap up?
I just want to say thank you and hello to Terry Jones, my buddy. And you know what, you're an inspiration, and please keep up the great work.
Joan?
Terry?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. And I was just going to make the general comment. It's not rocket science, as we used to say, but the production of food, healthy food, and the care of our ecosystem, which farming, whether it's in urban or rural or in between, should be at the core of all legislative consideration. It's, you know, healthy citizens and healthy land, climate change, it all comes back to that central point. And I would just hope we could, as the society, focus on it. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Anybody else have any other last minute thoughts, comments, questions? Kip?
And maybe I'll just take this and then continue on. Just as a thought, again, echoing what Terry said, and again, from some of the comments from Richard and Shane, is that, you know, we know that there are many benefits to home rule and town government, and though specifically as it relates to addressing climate change and food systems and the opportunity for agriculture to be able to evolve and grow and change, that municipalities oftentimes create barriers. And so that would be something that I would implore the legislature to take a look at. Are there incentives and disincentives that we can offer municipalities to be more farm friendly, to be more open to what it's going to take to change the food system, increase food access for all, and to help agriculture diversify and to adapt to climate change. So, and that, you know, they're each 169 town, each one is not an island, and what they do does impact the rest of the state, and in some cases has global implications. So I'll just keep that as a thought to consider. And we certainly appreciate the panel speakers for the opportunity to hear their thoughts and ideas on planning for the future of farmland, and to outline some of their priorities and actions and thoughts. We'd also like to thank our special guests and our Pathfinder awardees. Congratulations to all of them. And Jim and I appreciate the contribution of the other steering committee members and their organizations, and to the hard work and passion and tireless efforts of Chelsea Gazzillo. Chelsea is amazing. as our WLA Director and New England Policy Manager. And thanks also to Emeren and Nate and American Farmland Trust for their support as well, and to Gwen Jones for that fabulous graphic. She always does such a great job. She's so talented for the announcement for our meeting. So unless there's anything else, I would say I'm really pleased that we had such a great turnout and look forward to all of you being advocates for farmland preservation and farm viability, and helping us change improve the food system and address climate change. So thank you. And thank you, Joan, for the panel.
Oh, my pleasure. It was the beginning of our continuation of great conversation. So thank you. Thank you, Kip.
Thank you.
Okay. So if
Bye,
anybody,
everyone.
Yep, bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, Chelsea. Good job.
Great job, everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Good to see you all.